Last class, we looked at 3 levels of soul and discussed how they can be situated in different parts inside the body. And in many views, our souls could be said to be inside of our physical selves. A deeper layer, a subtle reality. And this type of image or framework is not uncommon when we think about where is our soul? But there's another view. It's complementary to this one, and sometimes it's presented as different. And that is that we are not a body with a soul inside, is that we're actually a soul with a body inside. And that might look something like this. Perhaps our soul isn't in our body. Perhaps our body is inside our soul. And some people listening to this, you might say, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. There's something that I feel that surrounds me. Some people might call it an aura. And some people listening to this, you might say, I have no idea what you mean. This is a foreign concept. So here is a practice I'd like to guide you in before we get into the text for today. And the first step, it's a visualization, is to get comfortable in your seat, to notice your feet on the floor, wherever they're touching, to feel your body against the chair you're sitting in or the surface you're lying upon, to take a few slow breaths. Imagine that there is light which surrounds you. It might be in the shape of a sphere or an egg. And if you can't feel it at all, or this is a new concept, just imagine that it's there in your mind. Once you've got that image of that light that's surrounding you all around, above, below, to the sides, in front, and back, see how far away it is from your body. Is it a few feet out? Is it really close to your body? Wherever it is, just get a sense of that distance. And you could even ask yourself, does this feel comfortable, this distance? What would it be like to expand the light that surrounds you? What would it be like to broaden that light as you continue to breathe slowly? See how it feels to make that aura around you, the soul around your body, expanded. And when it's wider, deeper, and higher than it was before, notice once again, just doing that in your mind's eye, does it make a difference in how you feel? Is there anything that feels more or less comfortable now? Do you feel any different? Whatever your answer is, whether it's better or worse or the same, that's good information. There's no right answer right now. Once you get a sense of what it's like to widen and expand the aura, see if you can bring it really close to your body. What is it like to bring it in? closer than it was at the beginning into a more contracted state? How close can you bring it so that it feels contracted? And once you've reached this new, less wide version, notice how you feel in this moment. You feel the same as before, any different? And finally, see what it's like to surround yourself with this light at just the right size, just the right distance from your body. Is there a most comfortable form that it takes? When you found that comfortable expansiveness or contractedness, let's take a few more slow breaths. You can start to come back gradually to the space you're in. Notice your body again against whatever surface you're resting or lying upon. Noticing your feet, wherever they're making contact with, what the sensation is there. And you can open your eyes. They were closed. If you had any information come to you, any noticings, you can write those down. And notice, when were you most comfortable? Was there a difference between when the field that surrounded you was really close to you or when it was really far away? In general, people tend to have more close contracted auras when there's a feeling of not wanting to be as extroverted or feeling afraid or even intimidated. And people tend to have a more expanded aura when they're feeling more open and relaxed. So one last idea based on what you noticed is you can actually try this out on your own. You can practice expanding and contracting. And also, if you're in a social situation, for example, where you find that might cause you to be contracted normally, what would it be like to open up a bit, to visualize your aura expanding and notice if that makes you feel any differently in those moments, might give you courage or confidence. And so this is one way we can experience and explore this relationship between our behavior and our bodies and our souls, and use visualization to expand our potential of what we can experience. In today's class, 42 Paths of Embodied Kabbalah, number 6, your soul and your body. If you've learned much about religious history and tradition, you'll know that the body and the soul are not always best friends in the past. It's not a given that treating the body right, treating the body well, is going to be beneficial for spirituality. In fact, the term spirituality comes to us from the Catholic tradition, and it means the opposite of corporeality. Corporeality being physicality, the body, and spirituality being the spirit beyond. In many ways, and in Judaism as well, there have been lots of teachings about how the body and the soul can work together, but really emphasizing too much for the body can lead the soul astray. Asceticism. Here is an image of someone who is not nourishing the body as part of their spiritual path. In fact, living in poverty and hunger is a part of paths for many people in the past, especially, and even today. And asceticism is, in essence, treating the body without great care in order to subjugate it to the goals and the purity of the spirit. We have Kabbalistic teachings that promote asceticism, they're not that rare. And in the context of those types of teachings is where our lesson today emerges. But around the same time, in fact, right before, we're going to be looking at a second teaching on Rebbe Nachman today. But right before, in his era, there was someone named the Ramchal, a great Kabbalist who wrote dozens of books in his short life, and he was no stranger to the idea of overcoming the body in order to refine the spirit. He says, there is a war between body and soul in such a way that if the soul wins, it will raise the body with it. But if man allows the physical to win in him, the body will surely be lowered, and the soul will be lowered with it. Man still has the ability to humble his physical side before his spiritual side and soul and acquire his perfection. There are practices that Kabbalists were keeping that involved lack of sleep and fasting from Shabbat to Shabbat, only drinking water and no food. This is a practice that existed. And waking up every night in the middle of the night to mourn the loss of the temple and basically subjugating and repressing physical desires or physical well-being for the sake of transcending. It's sort of in a lot of cultural DNA, it seems, that this is one way to approach the world. And part of the Hasidic mystical movement, which Rebbe Nachman was a part of, though there were ascetic elements. In fact, Rebbe Nachman himself in certain times definitely was ascetic. There was also a turn towards this understanding that God is not out there. Where are we trying to run to when we overcome our bodies? God is right here. God is in every tree, in every rock, in every person, in every relationship. God is in our bodies. And so with that in mind, the treatment of the body becomes much more important. So Rebbe Nachman of Breslov, he writes, every person should have abundant compassion for their physical body. Why? To reveal to it each insight and illumination that the soul perceives, so that the body will also understand them. There are deep secrets beneath the surface of our minds and our bodies. Truth, wisdom, guidance that is waiting to come our way. But it won't actually land. We can't actually perceive it if we're not treating ourselves well. A lot of people have an experience of being really burnt out by work, for example. And the more they try to figure it out, the more coffee we drink, the less sleep we have, the more we keep striving, sometimes it doesn't help. And so a burnt out person takes a break and they take a nap or a bath or have some good food to eat or go for a walk in the woods and just forget about it all. And all of a sudden, poof, the solution comes that treating ourselves well, it might seem kind of indirect for attainment and realization. But in this understanding from Rebbe Nachman, and indeed in Embodied Kabbalah, when we treat our bodies well, they are most likely to communicate to us their deeper wisdom. Embodiment is a relationship we have with our body. And just like if I'm mean to my friend, they're not going to want to open up to me. In this path, if I'm mean to my body, why should it tell me what it needs or its secrets or the wisdom that lies beneath? Why would it? So self-care, food, exercise, sleep, well-being is a key to unlocking the mysteries and the potentials of the body as a gateway to deeper understanding. This is the notion of, here he's quoting the book of Isaiah, and from your own flesh, do not hide. Flesh, specifically, so you do not turn your gaze from being compassionate to your own physicality. So this line from the book of Isaiah is not directly related to the idea of embodiment, but in rabbinic Hasidic fashion, Rebbe Nachman lifts it out of its original context in the Bible, and he says, this is what it means. Truly, do not hide from your own flesh. Nourish so that there is an opening and an openness to what you can receive. And in fact, Rebbe Nachman's great-grandfather, the Baal Shem Tov, who founded the Hasidic movement, he wrote this same verse to one of his own students, Yaakov Yosef of Polnoya. And he said, you know, this ascetic stuff you're into, it's not a good idea. You should treat your body right, because this is how we can progress spiritually. I mean, the Baal Shem Tov, as we'll see in future classes, was also someone who said, sometimes you have to take a break from studying Torah or from doing spiritual practices in order to achieve what they're designed for. You actually have to take rest, even from spiritual practices, he would say. So from your own flesh, do not hide. There's something of worth and of value there to cultivate and relate with. Rabbi Nachman continues, people should have great tenderness for the body in order to refine it, so that the soul will be able to make known to it every insight and spiritual realization. Just this image of this woman sitting, enjoying tea, looks like the dawn sometime around then, with the steam mist coming off the water. She looks pretty nourished in this moment. And I have a feeling this is a wonderful context for hearing realizations from deeper parts of ourselves. And also, this kind of insight, the other way that it can be said to the body is there's a difference between knowing something in our minds and being able to live it out. For the body to understand something also has to do with action. We can all have wonderful ideas, and ideas are great. That's part of the Torah study world, is having ideas. But if we're running on fumes and unable to find balance, a lot of the ideas are harder to execute. So part of it as well is what does it mean for it to be known in us, not just understood, to be known that we can walk with that in the world. At all times, every person's soul is perceiving and comprehending profoundly transcendent matters. The body, however, does not know about them. There is, in this teaching, a duality between body and soul. This is not always the kind of language I use personally, but just to acknowledge it. Rebbe Nachman is living in a worldview where there is something of a disconnect. The body can be more lowly, and the soul can be higher, but he's working on building those connections. And one way that I relate to this is to say there's parts inside of me, inside of all of us, that are extremely wise. They are comprehending profoundly transcendent matters. There are things that are so deep that if we could find a way to hear them, it would illuminate our minds and our lives. The body and the soul are like storehouses of treasure. And one of the components of realizing the wisdom of the soul in this regard is about being good to ourselves. What a great teaching. Be good to yourself. It's very universal and very timely. Yes, we could meditate for 24 hours straight on a cushion. That might be what we need at times in our lives, or going on a retreat, all those things. But being good to yourself, feeding yourself when you're hungry, drinking when you're thirsty, sleeping when you're tired, that's a spiritual practice. So every person should tune into the very substance of the body, to witness it and refine it until the soul will be able to enlighten it with all that it sees and grasps at each moment. This is yet another angle or another layer of what Rebbe Nachman's communicating in this moment. There's something about witnessing and being connected to our bodies, of noticing what's there, that can be an opening to greater wisdom. That practice at the beginning about imagining that there is light surrounding us, maybe if we do that every day, we might start to notice our bodies feel a little different. Maybe if we focus on our feet, we can start to get a sense of the more finely tuned sensations there. And indeed, the more attention we pay to sensations anywhere in our body, a feeling of warmth in the chest when we're happy, a feeling of constriction in the gut if we're feeling nervous, that being aware of those sensations and seeing if they have anything to teach us is part of this relationship to the body and the deeper layers of truth and knowledge and learning that can be revealed to us through it. Indeed, the body is like Torah. It is like a scroll. It is like a wisdom text or a verse that when we're reading, we might not always find that it immediately speaks to us. There might be something challenging there, but to drash, to interpret, is to find deeper meaning and potential that lies beneath. And in the same way that we do that with a Torah teaching, a scroll, a verse, we can also do that with our bodies. Why do I feel this way right now? I got that strange sensation when I met that person. What's going on there? Is this about me? Is this about them? Something else? And so in that way, our bodies can be conduits and gateways to deeper learning and insight.
If this video resonated with you, you can find a deeper exploration in my full online course, Introduction to Jewish Mysticism. Link is in the description.